a critical weekend in the Big 12. And I think we have a lot of previews coming up on the show as we do every Friday. BYU and Utah. And this line has fluctuated. I looked this morning as I was laying in bed, not fully clothed, and it is 3.5, between 3.5, or 4, depending on where you get your action from. Saturday night in Salt Lake City, 8:15. It's going to be in the low 40s. It is going to be great football weather, and it's going to be the game of the year in the Big 12. Not far behind that, 2 o'clock on Fox. Colorado Buffaloes football. Heads to see the Fighting Joeys.
Right.
In Lubbock. You like your guy Dion this weekend?
I do. I think the lack of defense in Tortilla Land is going to come back to get them against Colorado.
In Tortilla Land.
Yeah. I think that, Texas Tech.
Okay.
Love what Joey's doing. I think they're heading in a reasonably good direction, but that defense is going to come back to get them. You're not going to play a 17-16 game this week. I can tell you that right now.
No, the defense at Texas Tech obviously worries me. And I think as we talk college football, and we've talked college football live all year long on this show, the trends in college football are explosive offenses backed up by solid defenses. Alabama, you look at Ole Miss, certainly Lane Train, LSU.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the teams in the SEC, you look at the Ohio State, you look at Oregon, explosive offense, really solid defense. The best teams in this country are explosive. The elite teams, the Oregons, I think the Ohio State is in this. I think certainly Georgia. I think Bama to a lesser extent. You have to be explosive on both sides of the ball. And I think Lane Train, I think Tennessee certainly falls into that category. Well, I don't know what to make of LSU, and I'm interested today to talk a lot of SEC college football here on the Monty Show. I want to know what you guys think about explosiveness and who's truly elite in the SEC. Is Georgia elite? Absolutely. Is Bama elite? I think elite's a stretch for Alabama this year.
Mm-hmm.
Are they very good? They are. Is LSU very good? They are. They're not elite. Is Ole Miss elite?
No.
I don't think so either.
Very good, not elite.
I don't think so either. I think that we tend to put everybody in the hall of very good, and they just don't belong there. You know what I mean? Like when we look at this weekend, you look at what is on the line. I think if you look at, again, where are the rankings? Look at these rankings, right? And if we put the rankings up, how many truly elite teams? How many truly elite teams do you see in these rankings? Oregon's elite.
Certainly.
Is the Ohio State elite? I want to, but I don't know that I can call them elite. I've seen too many moles on the face of that offensive line.
Well, and I just think the Ryan Day situation, I think it's hard for people to trust him.
Is Georgia elite? They are. Is Miami elite? They're not. Miami's very beatable. Miami is a flawed football team. Well, unfortunately, they haven't lost. If you're not an ACC fan, they haven't lost once, not even once. Cam Ward's a Heisman Trophy contender. Texas, Penn State, anybody below Georgia, in my opinion, is not elite. And I think that's the way college football should be. We have a lot of really good teams in this country. But how many of them are truly elite? And if you look at the rankings that came out for the college football playoff, again, I asked the same question. If you look at those 4 teams on bye, is BYU elite? Certainly not. Is Oregon elite? Certainly. Miami, no. Georgia, yeah. I think 2 of the 4 teams that win the conference championships or are projected in these rankings are elite.
Yeah, well, and I think the sense of like if we were to pose a question like which of these teams can make more plays on any given Saturday, which of these teams can make more of those plays that decide a game. I think that's an interesting way to phrase it that I saw yesterday on Twitter. Like, obviously when you look at these brands, like some of them really stand out as like, hey, these are, big time programs that really, really excel at these certain situations and items in the football game, but then really struggle in other situations. And, I think Ohio State, I'm with you. I want them to be elite, but I don't feel as though they actually are elite. I feel like they've allowed us to question their quality. And so to me,
Well,
I think Oregon and Georgia are probably the two best teams in the country. It's a situation where I feel like if Georgia and Oregon matched up, it really depends on where that game is played. Because if you're at Autzen, that's a really different situation than if you're in Athens.
yeah, and I'll be honest with you that Georgia is the best team I've seen this year. You know what I mean? Like they are certainly somebody that I think is explosive on both sides of the ball, as we talked about. Carson Beck's a problem for Georgia. And I know we've talked about this cat on this show for a long time. I think Carson Beck's a huge problem for them.
How many of these teams have quarterback problems, though?
A lot.
It's strong to say Carson Beck is a problem.
Oh no, I really.
Enough. Well,
I think he has Carson Beck has that propensity. And I know we're an SEC show here,
obviously,
but Carson Beck, that's exactly right. Go Dogs!
Yeah,
Carson Beck has that propensity to just not deliver the football in time and space in big moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw that against Bama. Certainly better in the second half. He was a disaster in the first half. I think he had some really questionable moments against Texas. I think the defense won the night for Georgia that day. I don't know. I'm not a Carson Beck believer. I am not a believer that he is, that he is somebody that I'm not a believer that Carson Beck's somebody that I want to win me a championship. If Georgia is going to win the college football playoff this year, and I think they will be right there at the end, that defense, that pass rush, their innate ability to intimidate you before the game's even played. Their tape intimidates you. That's what separates Georgia right now. And we all question Georgia's defense. We were wrong for doing that. That defense is really good.
Yeah, and I think that, the thing with that Georgia-Texas game and the thing, like the lasting impression was, I just felt like, the Texas defense, their scheme, their play calling, the time in which they brought pressure, and then the time when they backed out, like, I don't know. They just played a great game that particular night. But we've seen them be vulnerable against other teams. We've seen them have this propensity of like, hey, we're going to start like the Alabama game. We're going to start really slow, and Bama's going to come for us and we're going to be way behind. And then we're going to come back in that game. And, I just question whether or not you can do that against, the best teams. Because for Georgia, that's all that matters. We're not talking about Georgia playing BYU or maybe a lower level team as far as the college football playoff is concerned. We're talking about Georgia playing, Oregon. We're talking about like the best teams in the country. And I really do believe it is Oregon and Georgia and kind of everybody else right now. I wish Texas had bounced back better. I wish that, because it kind of feels like after the Georgia game, they just haven't been the same team. They haven't had that excitement that I don't know how we want to phrase it, but just that energy around the program. And I look at the rankings and it just feels like, yeah, it's Oregon, it's Georgia, and everyone else is just trying to get there at the end. So I don't know. I want better quarterback play overall. And I feel like Cam Ward and the Cam Wards of the world really rob us of that. He is a phenomenal talent, but whether it's him turning the ball over too much or whether it's Carson Beck not delivering when he needs to, like or Will Howard against Petto State, like what are we doing? And then comes back and leads his team to victory. It is a classic scenario this year of really inconsistent play, but also really like exciting moments and finishes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Carson Beck, I look at these quarterbacks, which is really what we're talking about here. Let's be honest. In the biggest games this week, again, BYU and Utah are a perfect example of this, right? You're gonna get a BYU Utah game for the first time in 3 years, and it is a rivalry game. It is the Holy War. It is the best rivalry in college football. And I'm here for it in the comments section. What do you think is the best rivalry in college football? Because if BYU and Utah is not the best rivalry, It's certainly the one with the most heat. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think if you look at this game this weekend and you look at the number and you look at the spread and you look at the importance of this game to the Big 12, I think it's awfully difficult to make the argument that you are not looking at a game that is must win for BYU in the Big 12, because Utah has a chance, and they will have a chance just about every week remaining this year to wreck the Big 12 season. That is what is on the line. And if you are Utah and you are facing BYU and you are in a position to beat BYU and knock them out of the college football playoff, your season can be saved. The heat, the vitriol, the anger, that's what makes the Holy War the greatest rivalry in college football. And I've covered a lot of really good rivalries. Back to Notre Dame and Michigan, SC UCLA, Michigan and Ohio State. You look at some of these games and you look at some of the rivalries that have been created. That may be Bama and Georgia, right? Bama and Georgia certainly right now is a better rivalry. And I do think it's a rivalry. It's a better rivalry than Bama Auburn, just because Auburn's not relevant. But here's my point about the Holy War. It doesn't matter if BYU's been relevant for a decade. They're relevant now. And tomorrow night in Salt Lake City, they're more relevant than Utah for the first time in decades. BYU is in a position to compete for a national championship, and Utah is just simply hoping to wreck that. Utah's not trying to go to a bowl game tomorrow night in Salt Lake City. They're not trying to compete for anything other than wrecking BYU's season. It's been that bad in Salt Lake City for the University of Utah, and I got to be honest with you. I think this is very good for the rivalry. If BYU goes to Rice-Eccles Stadium and wins this game, and I think they will, this could be an incredible change in the landscape of football in the state of Utah, because one of the things you just don't understand unless you have experienced this rivalry, this impacts recruiting. This impacts the conversation on Sunday morning in church. This is one of those things where Isaac Wilson, the quarterback at Utah, is there anybody who would be shocked if he wound up transferring to BYU? I certainly would not be. That's happened before, and it's going to happen again. There are players on both of these rosters who were best friends in high school who now hate each other for one night in Salt Lake City. It's the greatest rivalry in college football because it's life and death. It's family, it's friends, it's broken relationships that can never be repaired because BYU is playing Utah with a shot at the national championship on the line. It's why BYU and Utah have to be in the same conference, and for years have not been. The snubs, the slights, the disrespect, the looking down the nose from the Pac-12, the billboards pronouncing Salt Lake City Pac-12 country, all that goes away. All those demons are exorcised if BYU goes to Rice-Eccles Stadium tomorrow night and wins. It almost does not even matter what happens the rest of the year. If BYU goes to Salt Lake City and Utah wins that game, all is forgotten. Nobody cares that Cam Rising's 87 years old and is out for the year. Nobody cares that Kyle Whittingham, the rumors of his retirement, the rumors of moving on, nobody cares because Utah beat BYU. That's what's on the line. Years and years and years of pain and disrespect all could be exercised tomorrow night at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And I'm telling you, if you don't understand the greatness of BYU and Utah, you're missing out.
Certainly. And I think that, that's perfectly said. I mean, that encompasses it. I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think Utah's got any type of chance to win this game. I'll be honest with you. I think this game isn't about Utah, in my opinion. This game is about BYU. Like, if BYU plays well, plays the way they've been playing, runs the football, protects the football, they're going to win this game comfortably, in my opinion, because I think they've got a defense that's going to make plays and get turnovers and make Utah's offense, essentially pay for being really mediocre. And Utah fan wants to sit here and say that Micah Bernard's going to come out here and just roast people. Mekhi Bernard is going to roast people and pull another Ollie Gordon on BYU's defense. And I'm just sitting here telling you, if that's going to happen, he's going to do that against nine guys in the box. And I just don't see Utah coming out here and, dominating BYU on the ground. Because if you're going to that, you're going to play this game. You're telling me Jay Hill and company aren't sitting here saying, okay, we don't need to worry about the deep threat in this game early. What we need to worry about is stopping the run and controlling them and making sure that they understand that, yeah, sure, you've got Bernard, but we have a linebacker room that's willing to match his physicality. And that's the one thing that I think Utah fan probably doesn't want to talk about is that you haven't really seen a defense that is willing to match Bernard's desire to punish you. And I do think that, Glasgow, Jack Kelly, these dudes are willing to come out and match your physicality. And it's going to come down to who's winning in the trenches. It's going to come down to who is winning at the point of attack. And it's a classic age-old football discussion.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to come down to who wins the trenches, according to BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick.
The game is won and lost on the line of scrimmage for sure, and we're going against a very, very good front. I mean, Utah's as good as it gets in college football in the front seven every year, and so we're going to have to be ready to play for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one saying it anymore. Go ahead and discount that defense at Utah at your own peril, because I think that team is very good. And I think when you look at the other side of it, and I know I played this yesterday, and I caution you, there's a little language here. The messaging from Utah to BYU and BYU to Utah is very different.
Excuse my language, but it's fuck BYU, man. I've never been a part of the Cold War, but I'm excited now.
Utah's got great players. I mean, they've had the history of having great defense, having a great defense, and so they have great players with great coaching. You know what I mean?
Well, this Cold War.
Yeah, the Cold War.
What is the Cold War? Right. That's the amazing part of this. You heard from Aaron Roderick. You heard from Hinkley Rapati at BYU, the running back. Oh, Utah's great. And
great players, the coaching staff. Wow, man, wow.
That front seven, one of the best in college football. And then Kyle Whittingham, the head coach at Utah, won't even mention BYU's Jake Retzloff by name.
I'd say the QB is the catalyst. You look at individual rushers, individual receivers. There's nobody that just jumps out statistically. It's a collaborative effort, but the quarterback is the catalyst, in my opinion.
And you know what that takes me back to? Oak State. Oh, number 15. or what was that? It doesn't look like they should beat you, but they just do.
Yeah.
It's like
Gundy.
Mike Gundy. Well, they're a bunch of nice old hillbillies over there at Utah.
Yeah, Alan Bowman after Utah week, in his media availability, saying they had never seen cover one in camp, and that number 15 was everywhere.
That's what's great about this rivalry.
Dudes have names. I don't know if we all know that.
Yeah, I think this is, and I'm here for the score predictions. Get in the comment section now. What do you guys like? And the other question I think is really important here is also this game right here. This one. It's a huge game. And I know that BYU and Utah is going to get all the headlines in the Big 12 this week. Totally get it.
Listen, because we're talking about how BYU and Utah hate each other. Listen to how Dion praises Joey, like how nice this is.
Tremendous friend of mine, Texas Tech. I love him. I loved him ever since he was at Cedar Hill. I was over there, got to know him because my son Bucky played in his organization, and just a pillar of consistency, commitment, and he was a dog. Like Joey, what you see is what you get. He don't mince words. Someone I could call and lean on to understand how this college thing works at sometimes, because I'm still new to this, although I'm true to this. I still need him and various coaches at times too, and I can't wait to see him and hug his neck. Usually I don't really, get down like that with other coaches for the game, but I'm definitely gonna look him up to try to embrace him.
And I thought it was very clear last year that Joey mentored Dion on how to play defense.
Yeah, well, Monty, Shiloh Sanders' defensive play was really elite.
Colorado's defense last year was hot. Colorado's defense last year was
hot ass.
It was not good. And this year, Colorado's defense is better, and Joey's defense.
I win. Google me.
Yeah, Google Dion, because they're winning with defense. I'm kidding. I think this is a huge game.
Yeah.
This is a huge game. And it's a huge moment in time for you because you have a chance to help kids that are hungry. 1 in 6 kids is hungry today. They don't know where their next meal is coming from, and that's why our great Floridian Maury Alvarez is in. Monty Thanksgiving Kids. All I can say is TDS is going to rip off TUN.
TDS.
TUN. The team up north's head, and you swoop as their Thanksgiving turkey.
Damn.
Okay. Maury Alvarez, 5 more. Sick girl giving to kids in need. Monty Show Kids. I love it, Maury. Thank you. Maury Alvarez clearly in the lead this morning with $30. Get on Venmo. Advocates donations. Advocates donations. 100% goes to feed hungry kids. 1 in 6 kids in our communities, no matter where you are watching this show. No matter where you are. Our largest markets on the show, obviously Salt Lake City in the state of Utah. Texas, all over Austin, Texas. Lubbock, Texas is one of our top 20 markets now. Dallas, Houston, 1 in 6 kids are hungry. The great state of Florida. Miami, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, all big markets on this show. 1 in 6 kids are hungry. Ohio, Cleveland, Columbus, 1 in 6 kids are hungry. Detroit, good morning, Detroit. Detroit breaking into the top 20 markets on this show now. 1 in 6 kids are hungry. Get on Venmo. Donate to the advocates. And I truly understand times are tough now. I get it. I totally understand it. Food is expensive. If you have $1, if you have $5, if you have $100, please consider donating anything that you have. That makes a huge difference in the life of our kids in our community. All right. BYU Hate Week. Okay. Utah 8, BYU 6. Utah can't win if it's anywhere near going over the point spread. Dude, you ain't wrong.
It's facts.
That's the biggest question. Can Utah score enough?
Yeah, what
to
is
beat
the
BYU?
What's the number in this game? Like 43, I think, or something like
The
that.
number in this here ball game is 41 and a half.
41 and a, yeah, I mean, you're
Listen, here's the biggest question. Can Utah throw the ball enough to get Kelly and Glasgow away from the line of scrimmage? That's all you need to know. The answer is no. I don't think they can.
Yeah.
Because I think this secondary at BYU is very comfortable and prefers to play man. Jay Hill, I think, very much prefers to play man. And if you can have Isaiah Glasgow free-ranging to the football, Utah has very little chance to win this game. BYU has shown that they are susceptible against the run. I would run that ball. I'd run 40 times tomorrow night. I'd run the ball 40 times tomorrow night. You cannot throw an interception in this game. I think, and I am dead serious about this, if BYU intercepts a ball and returns it even 5 yards, not to the house, but returns it 5 yards, Utah will lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to tire out that defense through the run game.
And I think that the difference is if you throw one of those, hey, we're going to punt anyways, let me take a deep shot and it gets picked off. Okay, I'm good with that. Flip the field with an interception, I'm fine with that. If you're 1st and 10 on your 35-yard line and you go all Will Howard last week against Penn State, you're going to lose this game by double digits.
Yeah.
And you just can't have it. And right now, Utah doesn't have a quarterback, Brandon Rose, Isaac Wilson, whoever it winds up being, that can confidently operate an offense, especially in 2 minutes. Utah can never trail in this game if they want to win.
Yeah.
You can never trail in the game. I think there are some real easy cornerstones and benchmarks to hit here. Jay McClanahan says 28-10 BYU. I think that is a pretty close prediction. I'm not far off of that. Kim Coulter, good morning. BYU 24-7. That would be a dominant performance. Ryan Smith's receding hairline. Where
You're
have
back.
you? Boy,
You're finally back.
Let me tell you something. Huge win in that loss last night for the Utah Jazz. I was a little concerned.
Cooper,
yeah, I was a little concerned for the Utah Jazz last night. But they hung on to lose that game. I mean, win that.
Show up.
And if we're doing the In the Pooper for Cooper updates, which a lot of people have asked us to do, Lowry had a sore knee last night. Only scored, I think.
Sorry, who?
Lowry,
Lowry,
the prime rib, only
you.
had I think he had 8 points last night. Stayed away from the Jazz on Prize Picks. But if we're doing In the Pooper for Cooper updates, that was a huge win. That loss last night was a huge win.
Of the worst record in the league currently.
Huge win for the Jazz in that loss last night.
Yes.
Do you know how much fun it is for me to do that? Huge win with that loss last night. They snatched victory from the jaws of victory last night.
We show up.
I love you all. Jazz fans are like, Marty, you don't even watch games. You know.
What's to watch?
I'm right here with you in the bowl. We're all pooping for cooping.
I get that.
Pooping for cooping.
Oh my God. I'll stop. It's so much fun for me because it's exactly what we told you was going to happen. And you guys know I don't like telling you how when I'm right or how right we are.
Do that on this show.
Or good looking. I don't have to tell you how good looking I am because your wife tells you.
Yeah.
But my point, advocates donations. I'm a wretched human being. Let's see. What do we got? My OSU Cowboys, as Charles Barkley says, are just terrible. Is this Oak State, James?
Yes.
You should give me an Amazon gift card so I can read books on coaching. I'll replace offensive coordinator because he's done. All right, $55 now. We are at $55, only $945 to go. We want to raise $1,000 every Friday on this show until Thanksgiving. Please hook it up. Advocates donations. And James, I am not going to allow you to be the offensive coordinator at Oak State. I'm not. I cannot recommend you for that job. I will not give you a reference.
Yeah, they don't have enough Amazon Kindle budget for you, so
I would agree with that. Or good morning, San Diego State. Glenn, what's going on? Glenn, hope you and the Fam Bam are well. 28-19, BYU bet the over. I think you have to bet the over. They're daring you to take the under in this game, right? 41.5.
Yeah.
Sean Rollins, good morning. Fire Marshal Bill. Wow. Love. What was that? In Living Color? Fire Marshal Bill with Jim Carrey. Let me tell you something. Exactly right. San Diego State, Glenn, times are becoming tougher. Pending tariffs are already impacting U.S. business decisions. I'm not getting into mortgage rates. I'm telling you,
bro.
You guys, I understand that money is tight. I do, but I just cannot tell you. I cannot tell you how important it is that those of us, and I want you to know we donate as well. We are putting our money where our mouth is. Please do not give us super chats today. Send it on Venmo to the advocates. Please do not donate memberships today. Send it on Venmo. Give it to the advocates because they're giving it to, and I want you to go, if you have any questions, and you can just go to thanksgivingheroes.org, no matter where you are, thanksgivingheroes.org. In Salt Lake City, it's slc.thanksgivingheroes.org. This is a huge calling. They need to raise $134,000 before Thanksgiving. It's a monumental task. And all of the money that you donate goes to feeding hungry kids. And I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it. I'm going to say it for the next 3 weeks. This is what we're fighting for right here, you guys. This right here. This is what we're fighting for. This is what we're raising money for. We're not raising money for Lamborghinis or people to get rich, or we're raising money for basic nutritional needs. That bag of potatoes that you see there, that bag of potatoes, do you know how much that means to a family that can't afford to buy food? One bag of russet potatoes. Do you know how much that means to a family? It's wild. And I think the thing that I really struggle with, we're talking about things like pumpkin pie, man. Do you understand that? Like, We're talking about last night. My wife made me of a feast. This non-bread with this bitchin' sauce you get. It's literally called bitchin' sauce with cheese, lettuce, fresh chopped tomatoes, ground turkey. You know what I was sitting there thinking about when I was eating that? 1 in 6 kids are hungry. I wonder what a kid would think of this. It literally is on my heart that much that I'm thinking about it while I'm eating because I have way more than I deserve. Now I've earned it, but I think to myself, 1 in 6 kids are hungry and I have way more than I deserve. That's what I'm asking you to consider. And we want to raise $1,000. Send Jake a screenshot of your Venmo right here. Advocates donations on Venmo. Take a screenshot of it when you send it. Send it to SLC Jake on Instagram. Right there. SLC Jake _ on Instagram. Send it to Jake. Let's
do it.
Let's put some food on the table.